If you've watched the channel before, you know I've not had the greatest luck when it comes to project cars. And I wondered, was it time to try something different? To spend a little bit more money to get a much more reliable car? And 2 months ago, that's exactly what I did. I bought a 2015 Lexus RCF. It had a 5-litre V8, it sounded amazing. But very quickly, my new perfect car turned into a nightmare. And so this is how we have this. My new 2015 RCF. But what happened with my old RCF? Well, I owned it for just 12 days. And in those 12 days, it had squeaky brakes, broken radar cruise, the transmission leaked all over the exhaust, and it was consuming coolant at a prodigious rate. So I asked the dealer to collect the car and see what was going on. They needed to investigate it, and I had good faith that it was a Lexus product. Hopefully, these weren't major issues. The coolant being consumed, the head gasket had gone, and so they needed to strip the engine down to fix it, and that took months. So this was the problem that I was facing. The car had had a number of major issues in a short amount of time, just 12 days of ownership, and it was taking months to sort out. And so it had gone to the point where I'd had enough and the car still wasn't fixed. So I said to the dealer that I wanted a refund. Under the rights and under the legal obligations, I was eligible for a refund, but it was going to be a real battle. And don't forget, I bought this car in September and it was December and the car still wasn't fixed and I still didn't have anything to show for it. The dealer then offered an exchange. It's been so long since I've driven an RCF. Do I actually still like it? Is it still fun to drive? Are the reasons why I bought this car in the first place, do they still exist? Or has my experience damaged my love for not only Lexus, but the RCF as well? And after 3 months, this car can still put a smile on my face. Because yeah, it's got a bit of an old school gearbox, but it's got a bit of an old school engine. No turbos here, folks. Woohoo! Little bit squirrely. Just a stonking great 5-litre V8, a good chassis. What is not to like? God damn, I've missed being in an RCF. It's a good sounding engine, and maybe we can open it up a little bit. We can perhaps get an exhaust fitted. I know the manifolds are pretty restrictive by design, so maybe we can get a set of them on at some point, but let's just I want to keep the car for a couple of months before I start thinking about modification, because yeah, I just want to enjoy it in its kind of unbroken state. But I still think this is a phenomenal car. A lot of you may disagree that I should have tried to push for a full refund. And yeah, you're probably right. But it came down to basically an equation in my mind of the time that I already spent trying to get this issue resolved. It's 2+ months. And ultimately what the cost was going to be, because we were then going to be entering into a legal situation. Now, I don't know if you've ever done things through the courts and all that sort of stuff, but one thing that is 100% sure is that when you get lawyers involved, it's going to take time and it's going to be expensive. And so whilst I most likely would have got an outcome that resulted in me getting a refund, it probably would have taken 2-3 months at the earliest. And it would have cost me probably at least a couple of grand. And so when looking at it through those eyes and trying to be pragmatic, because generally I'm always trying to be solutions orientated, how do we get the outcome? The outcome I wanted was, ultimately, I wanted a car that worked. And so when the dealer sort of offered a decent discount on this car, and it was a car that was in better condition, it comes with a sunroof, and I love a sunroof, that they were basically giving it to me at cost. And so it basically worked out for an okay deal. And so the end result is they've knocked some money off. I've sort of paid a little bit extra on top of the existing car, and we've resulted in a compromise. This big blue compromise. Just listen to that. Beautiful V8 noises, a very cool looking car, and one I'm really looking forward to getting to know better, because let's face it, my previous RCF, I only was able to drive that for 12 days. So hopefully I'll be able to do more of that with this car. And I've got some really fun things planned. I want to get some track days done in the next month or so. I want to get this car out to the Nürburgring once that opens up, I think in March or April. So I definitely want to do a road trip back to the Nürburgring and actually drive one of my own cars on the Nürburgring for the first time. That's the mission for this year, is get one of my cars onto the Nürburgring, get rounds, have fun, get home. I'd also like to take my brother out to the Nürburgring for the first time. He's never been, and I think that'd be a really fun road trip as well. And I'm still really only getting to know it, because thanks to Christmas and being away and all that sort of stuff, I've still not had a huge amount of time to actually drive this car. It's mostly just been sort of bimbling to the shops and back, which isn't really why you buy an RCF in the first place. Or is it? Because from a certain point of view, this is, you know, the car that's supposed to be able to do it all. You know, a car that you can take to the track, you know, wring its neck, a car that you can take to the track and then just drive to the shops afterwards. And also, the other thing I really like about it, despite the kind of shocking ignition blue, whatever this paint color is it's such a cute car. No one knows what it is. There's only sort of one person locally that's recognized it, and that's a dude who I do really need to find, because he's got a straight piped LS400, and every time we see each other we give each other a wave, and I really want to get the story behind that LS400, because it seems a very cool car, very silly car, very loud car, but that looks to be a lot of fun. So I need to try and flag that guy down and have a chat with him, and maybe get a video on that car. But otherwise, people have no idea what this car is, none at all. And that also goes for car enthusiasts. A lot of them don't know what it is. It is such a rare car in the UK, and no one thinks of Lexus and performance products. It's counter to what their brand image is, which is normally hybrid SUV econo boxes with great build quality and a luxury interior. This is something that changes the story, changes the record on the brand. And it's another thing why I really like, because having flashy cars is great, but you get a huge amount of attention, and that's a good and that's a bad thing in my eyes. And certainly when I had my LC 500, that car got attention wherever you went, and that's not something you want all the time, particularly as you're driving to your home. You know, it is really nice just to be in a car that, if you know, to use that sort of worn out phrase, but it is just such a special car. And that's something I really, really like about it, is that you have to know what you're looking at to appreciate it. And it is just so cool to have a Q car, because you even have to like recognize that this is an RCF by like the vent on the hood, which kind of reminds me of the Toyota Celica GT4, the ST205 that I drove last year. But also you've got the intakes for the oil and trans coolers in the front bumper. These are all very subtle things that people aren't really going to recognize unless they know. And there's something nice about that. There's something nice about a Q car. Something that isn't too raughty and shouty, that's like, look at me, but can be appreciated by enthusiasts. There's something I just really like about that. But one thing I need to figure out, and this is something I need your help with, is what should be my first track day in the UK, in the RCF? Because, you know, I'm in the southeast, so Brands Hatch is reasonably close. That's probably my closest track, but I've never been there to drive round. So is that a good track day? Are there other track days that you'd recommend? Because I'd really like to get this onto a track. I probably need to get some new tyres for the rear because they're not on the limiters yet, but they've got two different sets. I've got Bridgestones on the front and I think Michelin's on the rear, and the rears they're probably like 4.5 mil or something like that. And I don't like having two different kinds of tyres on the front and rears. Yes, it's perfectly safe. It just kind of irks me. I don't know if these are Bridgestone Potenzas on the front, so maybe I should get a set of them just to match, because I think these have got like 5 or 6 mil. So I don't want to have to pay out for 4 sets of tyres just to make it the same. That seems silly. So maybe just get two new rear tyres. But yeah, I'd like to get to a track day. I've been to one track day in the UK, which was a friend of the channel, JM, had an event at Blyton Park, something like that. Anyhow, we took the supercharged Z3 up there, which was not a great car to go long distance. My ears were pretty bad by the end of it, but it was a really fun track day. So I'd like to do another in the UK, and then of course we get this car out to the Nürburgring, because I think this is where this car will shine. And I think the things like having the engine oil cooler and the transmission cooler will really help with performance on track, particularly with the Nürburgring, because it is such a lot of wear and tear on a car. And why, again, I chose this car over an LC500, because I could have afforded like a quote-unquote cheaper LC500. It would have taken out all of my available budget, which I don't really like doing. But I could have done it. And I didn't, for a couple of reasons. One, it's a very flashy car, as I've talked about. But the rear seats are garbage, and that's always a problem. But also, it's not a car that likes being driven hard. Now, I don't drive hard all the time, but when I do, I do. And one of the problems that I've seen with the LC500, particularly, I think Misha took an LC500 out on the Nürburgring, and one of the things that I was monitoring quite a lot was the engine temperature. And as they got to sort of about 3/4, the engine was getting really hot. Didn't overheat, but it was getting proper hot. And that's because there's no cooler. And it's the same problem on the transmission, in that they couldn't use the car in Sport Plus because the transmission would overheat. And it seemed like a really big omission for the LC500 not to have these things, and particularly with the transmission and engine cooler, there's actually space for them. And I think that's because originally they were going to do an LCF version, but they cancelled that. And so it's a car that I think looks the part, but can't actually be driven hard. And I think that was always a bit of a miss. And so that's one of the main reasons why I went with the RCF. It was cheaper, so happy days, more budget to do other things. But also, for those moments where you do want to give it your all on track, this car is a lot better than the LC500. I think it's got better brakes, slower gearbox, but it can deal with the pressure of being on track. And I think that's a huge feather in the cap of the RCF. And yeah, you could probably fit a transmission cooler and an engine cooler to the LC500, but you still can't get away from the fact that despite the size of the car, it was 4.7 meters long, it had no rear seats that were usable by anyone, not even children. And I had tested with both of my kids a long time ago, and they've only gotten bigger since then. And it also had a really bad boot, and the car was huge. So it's a car I would love to get back into at some point, But at this point in life, I want a car that I'm able to use and doesn't frustrate as much as sometimes the LC500 did. So this is why I think this car is perfect for me in a way that the LC never could be. And that's going to sound really strange, because you ask most people, which car would you take? You know, they're free. What would you have, the LC500 or the RCF? I honestly would pick this car. And that is bizarre, even to me, because I know how much I love that car. But this car just does so much more for me and is so much more usable that it just makes sense. And very few people, particularly in YouTube, will have owned both. And I have. So, you know, take my opinion as someone who's actually not just driven both, because loads of people have driven both. Very few people have owned both an LC500 and an RCF. And I still think this is the better car. Yes, if you compare feature by feature on a engineering standpoint, the LC500 is the better car. The engine sounds better, but that can be adjusted on this car. The gearbox is fantastically better than the RCF. The RCF gearbox really is the weak point on this car. It's just a bit slow and derpy. And that's fine, but if you just drive it like a muscle GT, then I don't think you'll be disappointed. The LC does have that better gearbox, but everything else, the infotainment is still just as bad. They both have the Mark Levinson system. They use very similar seats. Everything else is pretty similar. And so when you think about like the better rear seats, the better boots, the cheaper purchase price, the improved trackability, if that's a word. If not, I'm making that a word. This is just the better car. And you may disagree with me. Let me know. Particularly, whoa, Jesus Christ, mate. All right, don't try and kill us. Sorry, a HGV was way over the white line. So that was a bit sketch. Anyhow. But yeah, if you've driven an RCF or you've driven an LC500, or if you've driven both, which would you pick? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested in here, because maybe I'm just delulu, as the youth say. Maybe I'm delusional. So let me know what you think, because I'm really interested. But yeah, I think after 3 months, am I happy that I still have an RCF? Yes. Yes, I am. I think this is a great car. It is a underrated car that I think is poorly compared to things like the M3. But I think it's all the more special for it. And you know me, you know I love an underdog. You know I love the path less traveled. And that's why this car appeals to me so much. Yeah, I'm sure the M3 is a better car, but it just doesn't interest me at all. M3s never have. To be honest, most BMWs have never interested me. So that's just, you know, personal preference. And ultimately, this is my car. This is what I've bought. I'm happy with it. If you don't like it, that's cool. That's the beauty of car ownership. We all get to pick the cars and brands we like. So with that, I think we're done with another episode. I need to figure out what my next challenge is going to be. I want to do an MPG challenge in the RCF. I need to think about a name for this car, because I can't keep calling it the RCF. It doesn't really roll off the tongue. But yeah, I need to think about where I want to do. I definitely want to do an MPG challenge, because this car is surprisingly efficient on a run. So I'd be interested to see how far I can get on one tank of fuel. So I'm thinking about potential options there. Got to do a track day. There's also some other vehicles in the fleet that I want to talk about, so I'll probably do some videos there. But let me know what I should do next with this car. I need to get this car home. I've got other stuff to do. If you watched this far, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you consider liking and subscribing. And with that, I'm going to keep this car hopefully for a very, very long time. and I'll catch you down the road.